Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. It is the Draftkings TV NBA preview show for tonight, Wednesday. And we have a big slate of games for you on tap, and we have a great panel of analysts to bring you the best plays of the day. We have Andrew Wiggins, Makisupa on Draftkings, Rob Perez, WorldWideWob, and that'll be tough for me to say over and over again, so I'll say it just at once. And Geoff Ulrich, wave goodbye. You can find all these guys on Twitter as well and across the DraftKings platforms, DK TV, the Playbook, and so on and so forth. Guys, let's dive right into this. And we have to start some injury news that is already out there, Andrew, where we have some clarification on some big guys who will be out. We know about Durant. We know about some others as well. So which injuries are you paying attention to most, and which do you think provide the most value on the other side of them?
Yeah, it's nice to get some clarity early in the day. So the guys that I think we know that Elfrid Payton is out. So Victor Oladipo is going to start at point guard again. He should play all the minutes he can handle. He was off to he had a great game last game, even though he didn't play in the fourth quarter due to a blowout. Should be a more competitive game tonight. I like him a lot. Tony Parker's out, but I think that whole situation is pretty irrelevant. It's a 16-point spread. I'm just going to fade that whole game. The Spurs against the Jazz. As you mentioned, Durant's out. Westbrook will be a hot topic as far as if you want to pay his price tag or not. And then Whiteside is being listed as doubtful, but he's moved to questionable now. If he's out, I think Chris Bosh will be a very popular play.
Let's dive into a position-by-position analysis. And here, as always, when you go position-by-position, there are plays that will sneak up because of injury news, because of rotation news, guys resting. Whenever the Spurs are on a slate, you need to be prepared for someone from that lineup to not be playing. So all these news points come out throughout the day. Stay tuned to your favorite source for NBA news to make sure you're up to date on lineups and who's sitting and who's not. But Rob, if we start off at point guard, who's your top play here? Is it a solo Russ Knight where you're willing to pay up for him, or do you see somebody else as the top play at the position?
I don't like Russ tonight just because of the Grizzlies, right? They're going to slow the game down. They're going to muck it up. He's going to see potentially a lot of Tony Allen coming off of screens and everything. And if he's not got Tony Allen, he's got Mike Conley, hasn't been shooting well. He's not going to get to the rim as often as he does. I'm not paying for Westbrook tonight. End of story. And Wiggins was mentioning the players that benefit from injuries and whatnot. Your Shane Larkins, your Oladipos. I can't tell you how many times I've been burned by these guys that are supposed to have big nights because of like minutes usage or whatever. Last year Oladipo, they tried to put him at point guard. Jacques Vaughn tried to put him there like 15 different times, and he barely put up like 20 fantasy points. That was it. So I don't put as much stock in that anymore as I used to. But if I have to pick one person tonight, I'm picking Kyrie, because him and Wall always go at each other. So this may not be the fastest game. He might not have the most minutes and usage, and he's just come back from injury. But I'm telling you, there's something weird about the Kyrie Wall matchup that they just them going at each other is a lot of shots and a lot of dimes. That's all I got for you.
Now, Geoff, if we turn your way, I know Rob was talking about Westbrook poor shooting, but even going 6 for 23 last time out, put up 50.5 DraftKings points. I don't know that the Grizzlies defense is as vaunted as they once were, a step slower. Do you like Westbrook tonight, or do you see, again, is this price tag too high, and is there lineup construction issues where you need to go cheaper than Westbrook?
Yeah, for me, I think the main thing is just finding value at other places so that you can roster him. I mean, I think with Durant out, he's generally a safe play. I would agree with Rob in the sense that it's not like the greatest matchup in the world, but I also agree with you, Dan. The Grizzlies aren't kind of what they were the last couple of years as far as matchups. So I think fitting Westbrook in is still a pretty good play tonight. I mean, when Durant is out, he's been pretty money, and he's pretty solid play just overall. So I do like a couple other plays. I do like Brandon Knight a little bit without Eric Bledsoe in the lineup. He's a little bit up and down, maybe characterize him more as like a GPP play. But I just really like the talent with him. He's got big game potential. And then Kyle Lowry, too, with Toronto. I think he's got a really good matchup against the Nets, who have some terrible point guards right now. So I'm looking at those two players as kind of maybe if you're looking for someone other than Westbrook. But I don't really think you can go wrong necessarily with Russell tonight. I mean, I just think that it's one of those situations when Durant is out, just play him probably and kind of look for value other places.
How about yourself, Andrew? We've talked about a couple of different options here that are on the table. Is there anybody else you see of the likes John Wall on the other side of that Kyrie Irving matchup, Chris Paul with a matchup against Portland here? Who do you like at point guard?
Yeah, I think I got to touch on Westbrook just a little bit more because he is such an important issue tonight. And I think he's a good play, but not a great play. And I think he's a perfectly fine play in cash or GPPs. I would like to see a little bit more value open up because there isn't a ton of elite value. There's not anyone I really love sub 4K right now, which is kind of what you need to pay up for Westbrook at 11.6. But he's played Memphis twice this year already, once with Durant, once without. And he's averaged 60 DraftKings points. So I'm not so worried about the matchup. It's more just like a roster construction issue for me. But I do think he's a good play. Two guys that I like that haven't been mentioned are Ricky Rubio. He gets Denver. Rubio's been playing well. His minutes have generally been up. He had a few games in the high 30s, and then we saw him kind of come back down. He's coming off a day of rest. I'd expect 33, 34 minutes. Good matchup. I like him a lot. And then Drew Holiday, his minutes cap has been lifted, and Tyreek is questionable. So if Tyreek doesn't go, I feel really good about him playing 30, maybe more minutes. And he's a really good player and a good matchup against a Dallas team that's probably going to be tired after double overtime last night. So those are my two favorite plays at point guard.
Andrew, sticking with you, any value here at point guard? I know injury news still needs to come out, but we do know Tony Parker's out, so we may get some more Patty Mills action tonight. You have Shane Larkin, as Rob mentioned, over there in Brooklyn with Jarrett Jack out for the year. Where are you going if you're trying to find a cheap option at point guard?
It's tough right now. I mean, you could look at Larkin, but he was splitting minutes with Sloan last game. I don't know if you can really guess who's going to get all the minutes, and if Larkin's coming in under 30 minutes, he's not a very good play. But I think he'd be an okay tournament play because if he gets hot, you could see him get up to 35 minutes, and he's a guy that can do some damage if he gets hot. So I'm okay with him. I mean, I mentioned Drew. He's not really a value play, but he kind of is 5.4. And then you could look at Patty Mills, but I think I'm just going to stay away from that game. So there's not a ton of value at point guard right now. There's really at the guard position in general, even shooting guard, there's not really much to like sub 4K. So you can go with some of those guys in the mid 4Ks, but they all have their warts.
Drew Holiday makes a ton of sense, especially at the price tag you're saying. He's not necessarily a punt at 5,400, but he gives you a lot of salary relief as compared to the upper echelon at the position and has been trending in an upward direction, that's for sure. Rob, let's turn the page to shooting guard here. We touched on Oladipo, and I think we know your stance on him right now. We can go away from him, but there are some injury concerns here. Who do you like at shooting guard? Is there one play that jumps out above the rest?
Yeah, I mean, Will Barton's not going to break your bank. 7,100 compared to like a Westbrook, and he gets the same type of usage, right? The Nuggets aren't the Thunder. They're not going to put up those type of points, but there's nothing special about that Minnesota defense. You know, he may draw Andrew Wiggins at times, but not this Andrew Wiggins, but the real Andrew Wiggins. No offense.
They're both real Andrew Wiggins. I mean,
I'm sorry. The NBA Andrew Wiggins. But yeah, so he may draw someone that can actually defend, but I see nothing in that Timberwolves scheme that is going to slow him down. And for that price, I'm willing. It's going to be a popular play, but had he not go after him, the other for me, and it's not even just a tournament play. Garrett Temple has been shooting horribly. He's like 25% from the floor since New Year's, but he is putting up 30, 33, 35, sometimes 37 minutes a game on a depleted Wizards roster. They're slowly getting healthy, but I feel something weird about this game that it's going to be up and down. They've both been pretty decent at defense and not scoring a lot, but I'm getting a weird feeling about this, that there's going to be a lot of like one-on-one matchups, which usually means a lot of shots for guards. Garrett Temple for the price, you can't really go wrong.
Now, Geoff, somebody I feel like is overlooked at times because of the way he shot in the past, and it seems like his usage is up and his efficiency is up. I haven't looked at numbers recently, but DeMar DeRozan over the past few weeks has been a very solid option. But is his price tag too high at 8,100 against a Brooklyn team that can slow things down to roster him tonight?
Yeah, I mean, DeRozan's one of those players he can get you those big games, but I also would look at this game and say, the Raptors are favored by 7 points to maybe not like the best spot for DeRozan. And like you said, it can get a little bit slow, a little bit ugly. I'm maybe looking for Lowry to do a little bit more of the scoring in this game too. I probably am not going to be paying up for DeRozan, or it wouldn't be my favorite play. I actually don't like paying up too much for anyone at shooting guard. I really like the Temple call that Rob just made. I think he's getting a lot of minutes. I think that makes a lot of sense. I also think you have to look at Aflalo down at 4,900, who's coming off 2 massive games. Miami's maybe a bit of a tougher matchup, but it's still, he's just shooting so well that, at 4,900, he's probably going to be pretty chalky, but it's just such a good value there. And the other one I like just for cash game purposes is Caldwell Pope. He just gets so many minutes and he can score in so many categories. I just like that as a solid play. I think I'm kind of looking toward going more value at shooting guard, but that's just my play for this night.
Now, Andrew, as we round out shooting guard here, do we live in a world where Evan Turner is a cash game play tonight?
Oh, yeah. Look, he's going to get 35 minutes. I'm assuming Avery Bradley's out. I think he's going to be out at least a few games. So he's a guy, when he's on the floor, like he can put up fantasy stats, and he's even flashed some upside in the past. That's more when he's been running the point, which he won't be doing tonight. But he doubled in the last game, and I think he's just a really safe play at a position where maybe there's not a ton to love. So you got him at 5.6K. We talked a little bit about Oladipo. I like the fact that he's going to play point guard because he will be handling the ball more, and just it's more opportunities. So like I said, he played very well in the last game. He's just been playing well in general over the last couple. The minutes haven't necessarily been there, but I do think they'll be there tonight with Peyton out. So those are the two guys, or maybe Eric Gordon if Tyreek doesn't end up going. He's only 5K. And then when last maybe flyer type play is Devin Booker at 4.3K. He's pretty risky too. But if he can sneak up north of 30 minutes, he's going to be a great play.
I believe I also saw that Evan Fournier was questionable tonight. Now that can trend towards playing, but more minutes than for the guards in general for Orlando to play. And I'm with you that when a shooting guard goes to point guard, a la CJ McCollum or Oladipo, that's somebody I want to at least consider and see if I can fit them in my lineup depending on price tag. We can move on to small forward, Andrew, and we talked about Durant. You mentioned Batum, I believe, earlier. We have Damari Carroll on the shelf. Chandler Parsons with the injury to his hip. Joe Johnson, an injury. CJ Miles with the question mark around him. This is a position that can often be pretty void of talent, sub 7K. You get beyond that price point, you're grabbing for guys like James Johnson who could give you 40 or give you 6. So are you paying up at the position for the likes of Kawhi or Paul George, or do you feel more comfortable a little cheaper?
I don't feel very comfortable with anyone at small forward today, to be quite honest. You got LeBron, who I think is in a pretty good spot, and his price seems pretty good. But you have Kyrie back, and I think Kyrie's going to steal shots. And you kind of saw it last game where Kyrie had a really great game, had 45 fantasy points. LeBron had 38, which was got to be one of his lower outputs of the season. So he concerns me. Paul George, of course, has been very up and down. I do think he's a decent option tonight, but he comes with some risk at that price tag. Carmelo's been playing well. Don't love the spot against Miami. And it's just all of them. There's nothing to love. Now, if you want to go cheap, James Johnson could very well draw the start again with Damari Carroll out. He's minimum. He comes with a lot of risk. He only scored 7 fantasy points last game. But maybe you just go with the savings and hope for one of those 40-point outings from him opposed to the 7.
A lot of risk, but a lot of tattoos as well. So I don't know if you get extra points for tattoos. I'm going to be honest. I miss Wilson Chandler's face on his neck tattoo. I need that back next season. But Rob, we turn to you here. Who you like at small forward? Andrew touched on a lot of the top plays here, but once you get beyond these questionable top plays, it's all questionable. It's all a mess. So where are you going at small forward?
No, you're right. And the first thing I have actually written down is don't play Carmelo tonight. This is coming from a Knicks fan. He played 40-plus minutes last night in Atlanta, grueling victory. He does not show up to these road back-to-backs. As much as I love him, as much as I still think he's underrated, he's going to play one of the best defensive teams in the league, very slow-paced. God knows if they're going to hit 170 total points in that game. So you're really relying on Melo to have one of those unconscious shooting games, which I just don't think he has. So first recommendation is stay away from Melo. The other guy I have written down is Marcus Morris. A little off the beaten path, and he's actually a little expensive. So maybe this is more of a tournament play than a cash game, but I'd probably be playing him in cash games as well. The Celtics are fast-paced, and they don't defend the perimeter. Marcus Morris hasn't been putting up any fantasy stats at all, but he's been shooting really well. So I feel like if he gets one game that there's going to be high usage with Marcus Morris shooting from the perimeter, it's going to be tonight. Again, this isn't going to be a very popular pick either. So if you're kind of into fading the rest of the league and stuff, this is without a doubt one of my favorite spots right here. He has been very efficient when he actually gets the ball, as opposed to your boy Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who's like the second worst shooter in the NBA right now in regards to volume guys behind like Kobe, maybe LeBron. So yeah, you got to put a lot of stock in usage. But if you're looking for someone that's been playing well, I think you might find it here.
Geoff, let's round it out at small forward. We have the likes of Danilo Gallinari and Jake Crowder and Tobias Harris, Otto Porter right here in the middle ground. Is that just a price point that we need to stay away from because the matchups aren't pristine, or do you see some value here in maybe some savings off the top guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to like Gallinari. I know, maybe the matchup isn't good, but again, minutes are just such a big thing for fantasy purposes, and he's just getting so many minutes, and he's playing pretty well right now. He's fully healthy again. I think some people might be scared off him because of that ankle injury from before. But he's been playing a ton of minutes. He's fully healthy. Jay Crowder is pretty much as consistent as it gets for fantasy. So, again, just a nice, safe play. I think both of them. I think Gallinari probably has a higher ceiling. Someone we didn't mention actually, and I'll just get the other guys' takes on this, but Wesley Johnson, I know he's kind of questionable or maybe probable, but it looks like he's going to play. He's only 3,600 actually. So getting a little bit more opportunity with no Blake Griffin on the Clippers. I don't know. I think he's one of those plays at under 4K that I might consider tonight. I don't know what you guys think or what the other guys think, but that was someone that sort of stuck out to me at small forward if you wanted a value pick.
Andrew?
It maybe because the position is so weak, but he's a guy that typically needs a lot of minutes to reach value. So if you can feel comfortable that he was going to play 30, 35 minutes, yeah, but I just don't know if the minutes will be there. They might be if he's playing well. We've seen him play some big minutes, and we've seen him play pretty well a game or two recently, but a little dicey.
Well, wasn't Paul Pierce out last game? Is he sitting out again today?
Yeah, that's right. Actually, that's the other thing. If Pierce sits out, I'd like him a lot more, obviously.
Yeah, and Wes Johnson's got to be one of the most frustrating players in the league. He's athletically, he's got everything that LeBron has minus the size. How is he not a dominant physical player? He's 6'9". He could jump out through the roof. He could shoot from time to time. His form looks good, yet he just never does anything consistently ever since he's been in the league. I feel like he's been one of the biggest letdowns.
He got drafted ahead of Boogie Cousins.
he got drafted that high for a reason. That's the guy is everything you want in an NBA player. He's like a stretch four, again, who lacks size, but when you look like that and you're decent shooting for him, it just frustrates me that he's not as good as I thought he'd be. That's all.
Now, speaking of the four, let's move on to power forward here. That's what we call a segue. Let's move on to Anthony Davis, Rob. This is a guy who has infuriated many a daily fantasy and season-long owner. He can go out and at any point bruise a toe and leave the court and ruin your night after spending up for him. But when he is active at home, on the boards, blocking shots, he has the ability to put up as many fantasy points as anybody else. At 10-3, can you roster Anthony Davis, and will you be rostering AD tonight on DraftKings?
Will I be rostering him? Probably. I mean, that price is pretty cheap for Anthony Davis. And we just talked about Wes Johnson being frustrating. I don't think you can name a more frustrating fantasy player this year than AD. This guy should put up a triple-double every game. Right now, he's the best overall player in the NBA in terms of defense, offense, intangibles. I was on the Anthony Davis MVP parade coming into this season. I was all in on Anthony Davis. There's a reason why he's the favorite. So I'm never not going to tell you he's not a good play. The one I have written down actually is funny that you bring up Anthony Davis. I have Ryan Anderson, who's, again, like Marcus Morris, he's a little expensive for what he's been producing. He's 5,600. So that may keep people away a little bit, which may be a good thing. He's only been getting between 23 and 29 minutes worth of run for the past couple games. So he's not blowing up the box score in terms of usage or play. And he's only shooting in the 30%, yet he's putting up 20 plus point DraftKings fantasy points up a night regularly. So what's going to happen when this guy actually gets minutes and he actually starts shooting well? Because he's due for one of those, like, you tune in Sports Center and they lead off with, oh, Ryan Anderson had 45 points tonight. We all know it's going to happen at some point. And a tired Mavericks team that rarely plays defense anyway, it could be tonight.
Geoff, let's turn your way here. We have Bosch, who with Whiteside potentially out, could be interesting. We have to watch that news. We have Thaddeus Young, who's had a good run here over the past week or two. You have Zebo coming off a gigantic game last time out, obviously still coming off the bench. What do you think of this middle ground of power forward beyond Anthony Davis? Is there value in here that you're willing to roster again, or are we trying to find value to roster the Westbrooks of the world, so we need to go cheaper here?
Yeah, I feel like I want to roster Anthony Davis tonight, but there is just so many other good options below him at power forward too. I think Thaddeus Young is really good at 7,400. Obviously, we'll talk about Chris Bosh first. I mean, with no Whiteside, he's been playing a ton of minutes. So he's just going to be relied on more and more. They don't have a ton of depth up front, so I think that again, you're probably just going to see him play a lot. And at 7,900, I think you're just getting so much potential that could match Anthony Davis at $2,000 more. So it's really hard for me to roster Davis, even though I want to. I think it's a great matchup, but you just love Bosh so much in that spot with Whiteside out, and I think Thaddeus Young is pretty good as well. Only 7,400. I'd probably roster Bosh just for a little bit of safety over him, but I think both those guys are just really standout plays to me. I like Randolph as well, just maybe not as much, just because I don't think it's too much more to pay up for Young or Bosh.
Yeah, Randolph very much matchup dependent and minutes dependent, coming off the bench now, and that them going a bit smaller at times changes the dynamic of what he can do in that offense. Andrew, leave it to you here to round out power forward. Who's your top play, and who are you looking at as maybe some value to roster in that forward or utility slot to get you some extra points off rebounds, off blocks, whatever it may be?
Yeah, well, I think if Whiteside's out, Bosh has got to be the top play. But Anthony Davis right now, to me, is the top play. Both very, very strong plays. Let's see. Nobody mentioned Serge Ibaka, who's coming off his best game of the season. I do think he gets a little bump without Durant out there. Not an ideal matchup, but he's fared pretty well against Memphis in the past. His price is good. He's a little bit cheaper than some of those other mid-tier guys coming in at 6.6K. And then the last guy I'd like to mention is Porzingis. He's been playing a little bit better lately. He's played very well against Miami in 2 outings so far this year, averaging 38 Draftkings points. One of them he really went off. You're always worrying about his minutes, but I think they should be there tonight. And I think he's flying a little bit under the radar. His price has come down. I think he's a really nice tournament option.
Who's going to guard Bosh? Is it going to be Porzingis or Robin Lopez? Because that's a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what they're going to do. They started Birdman for the last game, and he only played 10 minutes. Bosh played a lot of the 5. If they do that, then, what do they have? Dang playing the 4, guarding Porzingis. I mean, that's a good spot for Porzingis.
Well, yeah, Porzingis can guard the perimeter. Like if Robin Lopez was on Bosh, I'd put more stock in Bosh tonight, just because he can stretch the floor. But Porzingis is so long and look, one of those like things you see outside when you're doing your taxes, like come in and do us, the big wavy arms.
My kids love those.
Yeah, that's Porzingis on the perimeter. He never has to jump, and he bothers people's shots.
Right.
So even though Bosh is going to have high usage tonight, you got to think if it's going to be Lopez or Porzingis, because Lopez can't guard out there. Porzingis can. Just fair warning.
Rob, I'll admit you're talking about the blow-ups that are outside stores to gain attention, but you did a very good Muppet impersonation there too.
Oh, thank you.
Very much.
I've been working on that.
Yeah, that was on point. That is well done. We can move on to center. As Kermit is off for the center of attention. No, that didn't work. We can move on to center, and we talk about Andre Drummond. Don't shake your head at me, Rob. DeAndre Jordan, Brook Lopez. Now, Andrew, I'm of the mind that Drummond is a prime matchup here against Boston. This is a front line that, while efficient at times and has some scores and has some bodies that can do some good things, Andre Drummond is just such a different beast as compared to that front line. Is Andre Drummond in a prime spot tonight to put up big numbers?
Yeah, I think so. He's played him twice already this year and came in just under 50 DraftKings points. I think one of them he struggled slightly, but the other game he went completely off, if I remember correctly. He's just got a really big size advantage. A little bit of an up-tempo game, A lot of opportunities for him to get putbacks and such. I like it. I like him a lot. 9K, his price has come down to where it's a little bit more reasonable. He was around like 9.5 for a while. So I think he's a top target. The only problem right now is that there's just it's a little bit tough on the savings. So I think there's some guys in the like 7K range that might work better with roster construction, namely DeAndre Jordan, who's one of my favorite plays of the entire slate. He's been playing well without Griffin there. We haven't had the minutes a lot of these games because there have been blowouts, but we get a 4-point spread on the road. Should be a competitive game and a really soft matchup against Portland.
The Clippers have been running the pick and roll with CP3 and DeAndre Jordan very well of late. And would you be in favor of stacking there? I know it's a small stack with 2 players, but if you're playing Jordan, do you lean towards playing CP3 for the added benefit of the assists?
I don't necessarily target it, but I think it's a perfectly fine approach to take. As far as guys that you're going to stack, those are 2 of the better guys to put together in the league, like those 2, and then maybe Rjax and Drummond are another pair. But I think you could go that way. Chris Paul's kind of flying under the radar. He's 9.2K, and I think that he's in a really good spot to have a good game tonight as well. So I like that for tournaments.
Geoff, on to you here at center. We have some good names here. Center's one of the spots that has really surprised me this year with the output. We've had some really upside plays with guys like Gortat at times, and Zaza has been good, and Karl Anthony Towns has both exceeded and underwhelmed at times this year. Who do you like at center?
I'm actually pretty much on exactly what Andrew said. I really like DeAndre Jordan. I'm not a huge into those sort of low, mid 7K guys as much, even though a lot of them are getting huge minutes. Gortat's getting huge minutes. So, I mean, they're solid plays. I just think a lot of them don't have the matchup that Jordan has. And just with Blake Griffin out too, I think that there's like a monster game building for DeAndre. And I think this is, like Andrew already said, is a good spot. I think that another option could be just to go a little bit lower. Robin Lopez at 4,700 is kind of interesting to me. We already talked about Lopez, who he might guard and stuff, but on the offensive end too, he's not going to have Whiteside to deal with. So that's got to be a bump. He's just also been playing a lot of minutes. So his minutes have been trending right. His fantasy points have been trending right. I just like the price on him. I think that if you're going to go a little bit cheaper, he's a good play. Like the Utah guys aren't in a good spot tonight with San Antonio. They're a little bit risky. So I think Lopez is just someone I'd think about. I also kind of like Steve Adams at 4,100. Maybe just more of a sloppier game. Maybe that just favors him a little bit more. I think there's a couple good value plays definitely tonight at center anyways.
Rob, let's round it out here. Who's your top play and who's some value guys that you're keeping an eye on?
Well, I didn't get to mention him with the power forwards, but I include my center in this category. There's going to be 3 players tonight that just eat like num, 2 spoonsful worth of eating, glass, putbacks, dunks, all the above. You got Zebo at power forward, DeAndre, like you guys have mentioned, who's going to contain him on Portland. And then you have to pay for Andre Drummond. Like you come on these shows all the time, they're always recommending the top plays, whether it's baseball, they're telling you to do Bryce Harper, go start Jacob deGrom. It's so obvious, right? But tonight, yeah, you have to play Andre Drummond. There's not a soul on that Celtics team that's going to be able to box this guy out. I'm feeling 30 points, 20 rebound type game. It's going to be fast pace up and down. That's when he feasts the most. I'm paying for Drummond, not thinking twice about it. And if you want to compare his value, like you've got Westbrook in the 11s or whatever he is, Anthony Davis in the 10s. Drummond's only going to cost you 9, and he's got potential to put up a 60 or 70 any night of the week. So I see all the value in the world on Andre Drummond. A little bit smaller of a play for me, Jeff Withey. I know everyone wants to stay away from this Spurs Jazz game. So if you're going to pick one player, Withey not only gets high minutes, but he'll probably play during a blowout just because they're so thin. So if you're looking for value, he's not a good basketball player. I don't really recommend despite minutes, putting bad basketball players in your lineup. But how can you not here? It's a tough play. We talked about it before the show, but if there's ever a night for Boban, this is it. How do you like Boban could potentially see a full fourth quarter run. It's just fun having Boban in your lineup. So I'm going to do it in one so I can root for him.
That sometimes enters the theory too as well. Who do you want to root for on any given night? And who's going to be a fun guy to track? rostering Ian Clark last night was like that for me. I knew he'd be in there in the fourth quarter, and I was chasing some stats and hoping for the best. So guys, great stuff. If we were to nail down, gentlemen, from each of you quickly here, who are you building around? Who's the guy that you feel like is where you need to start roster construction? Rob, we'll start with you here. Who's the one guy? Who's the top option? Who's the one guy that you really want to be a part of and have as a linchpin to your roster construction?
Yeah, first guy in the lineup for me is Drummond. It's already been done. I'm not taking him out. We're just going to repeat myself if I say it again, but this guy's going to go absolutely off tonight. There's not, if you're talking about Kelly Olynyk, David Lee, Jared Sullinger, we're talking about Ewoks versus Imperial Walkers in Star Wars Episode 6. Like, they're trying to stop them with sticks and trying to like knock their legs down, and they just get bowled over. That's what we're talking about tonight at the Garden.
Timely Star Wars reference. I dig it. News and notes coming across as we're recording this. Batum is out tonight with the toe injury. James Johnson will start tonight as well. So some notes to keep in mind there. Andrew, who are you building around? Who's the one guy that you're starting your roster construction with?
I think it's probably got to be Oladipo. 5.8K. We saw how well he could play last game. We've seen in the past, of course, he's always been a good player. He's a little bit up and down, but I think there's too much upside for that price. You get the point guard at the shooting guard position. A lot to like about him.
And Geoff, rounded out with you. Who's the one guy that you want to have on your roster tonight?
I'll go super chalky and say Westbrook. I mean, Durant's out. He's just so good. And he can just get so many shots when Durant's not in there. So I do definitely, Rob's convincing me on Drummond. I like him, but I think I like him even more now. I also like DeAndre Jordan, though, but I think if there's one guy, it'd be Westbrook for me.
The beauty of the utility spot, right? You can play both.
Right.
Drummond and DeAndre possibilities along with West, and then you fill in a lot of 3.5K guys. That could be fun. Little stars and scrubs. Gentlemen, great stuff as always. You can find all three of these guys across the DK properties, DraftKings TV, the playbook, and so on and so forth. They'll be back with you throughout the NBA season to bring you top plays here. And of course, Andrew is on that podcast as well with RG Notorious, doing some great stuff, bringing you the top plays across the industry as well. So with that said, best of luck tonight. We'll catch you back here on DraftKings TV next time.